for you, what is the most important thing about open dialogue?
The first thing what I find myself thinking now, if you ask this tomorrow, there would be another thing that would come first to my mind. But today, what comes first to my mind is that everybody's voice is important.
It's how we work here.
Wow, it's the most important co-research of problems or dilemmas or traumas.
I think it's not the the treatment system per se, but I think it's more like a political thing. We aim at the democratic system where people can have their say about their own treatment, and that we are kind of try to be on the same level with people and being equal with them.
It's something that happens between people.
The sister of a patient, the patient himself, or the nurse.
To bring their understandings, bring their skills and knowledges.
We are not professionals who had to know everything right away, you know.
Right.
We don't go there like a specialist and after 1 hour we tell family what's wrong with you.
It's a kind of two-way connecting. It's not me treating somebody, but it's something I risk myself when I enter into a conversation.
We have the idea of hearing people and creating something together based on that.
Therapy clinic here, but just one room.
Yes, and that's why we don't have room to meet patients here, and we don't want to meet patients here because this is hospital.
Yeah.
We don't want to say to people who have crisis that, oh, welcome to mental hospital so we can talk here.
It was an interesting thing because when I first came here, I was thinking, I think they work very well with the mental health system. And they're even integrated into the mental health system. But I kept waiting to find out where is the mental health system.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what I realized is
it's this.
This is the mental health system.
Yeah.
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 And I thought, that's actually fascinating. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Somebody's calling.
When someone calls, when someone needs help, we try to arrange help for him or her right away. I don't say to a phone that maybe we can meet after 2 weeks and then we have time.
I think I have to find some.
But you have to, uh-oh, you're attached.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll turn off the camera.
Of our, basic rules. When the phone calls, you have to answer it.
Yeah.
And take the responsibility for what comes from there.
It is interesting. How many of my interviews have been interrupted by the telephone here.
Yeah, because I think that's a question of, being like available to people and serving the population.
Not hospital patients, but people outside hospital. I'm sorry, I have to answer.
You go.
Psykiatrian poliklinikka Vahtola.
You never know what comes from the telephone. It could have been a mother being worried about her child or something, and then I would have to start organizing things. You never.
Patients prefer that you meet in their home, or do they prefer to come to the hospital?
Most of people says, welcome to our home. But there are people who don't want us to go there. And then we meet here or some other places. We have, center of city.
Yeah.
We have a other polyclinic.
in Tornio.
There, yes, in Tornio.
In the
yes.
town, yeah.
And there are rooms, more rooms, and we can have a meeting there.
And so you give the patient the choice?
Yes.
Living in Tornio started when I moved there for being a clinical psychologist, 1981, so quite long time ago.
Almost 30 years.
30 years ago, yeah. And we were a small group of people, and we all had an interest that we want to have a family to become involved in the treatment of severe mental health problems.
He's a professor at the university in Jyväskylä. So before I came here, I interviewed him. And I'd met him at several different times in different countries.
I remember some meetings that were not for help for the people, and in which we actually acted quite stupidly.
Yeah, early on.
Early on, yeah.
So you made mistakes early on?
Yeah, we made mistakes. We still thought of the treatment that we are the therapist. We have to make plan, we have to have some aims, and we use, for instance, these open meetings as an intervention to have change within the family. What happened was that we didn't realize in the beginning, but while we open up the door for the family and for the client to be there, for the patient to be there from the very beginning, it's the case that they really take a very decisive and active role in the process.
The patient does?
Yeah, and the family does. They affect from the very beginning how to do, what to go on, what are their needs, and we still try to think that we are the healers, we have the intervention, we have to do that.
So the confusion was that you thought you were the experts, the healers, the one who have to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And what you found is that they wanted to take an active part also.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they were treating themselves as the healers and the decision
Yeah.
makers, and they would be the ones who made
Yes.
the decisions and the interventions.
Yes.
So there was conflict.
Yeah, very much conflict about it. Now we think that it's no longer a question that we are sitting together for making decisions and making plans for the future, but we are sitting together to understand more. And in this we aim at generating dialogue, and this actually becomes the most important aspect. No longer thinking that the aim of the meeting is to have solution. The solutions comes a part of self-evident process that is opened up while we focus on how do we manage to have all the voices heard.
So the purpose is dialogue, and as a consequence of the dialogue, the solutions happen.
Yeah, the change starts to happen immediately.
Why did you become a nurse? Did you think you would become a therapist also?
No, they called me and asked me, can I come to summer job here? And so I came at one summer, and I'm still here, 11 years now.
Really? So you liked it?
Yeah. Maybe first year I thought that I'm not sure about this, and I try to check out different kinds of work in anesthesia and surgery, but I'm very pleased that I stayed.
What was difficult the first year?
You know, that dialogue.
What I like about this is just that you can, like, how do you say in English, bowl around with ideas. With
You can what?
What, you know.
Bounce ideas?
Yeah, with your colleague and with the family. And
Right in front of the client?
Yeah, and with them. Not about them, but with them. You know. Talk with Marianne about something and then ask the patient that, but what do you think about what we were talking about? And yeah.
We sit down, and there was a patient, maybe a wife or someone from the family, and a couple of nurses, doctor, and we start to talk about the situation. I thought that, okay, what are we sitting here? We know what is going to be and what is going to happen. We have to take this person in the ward, and why are we sitting here and discussing still? But until you understand that this discussion there's meaning.
Meeting with the patient. Patient can be first a little bit why 2 workers. But when we explain it and when we start working and discussing together, so he or she finds out that it's good. And sometimes we are 3. For example, when we have a new patient, psychotic, with her or his family, then we often take 3 therapists.
There are many things it's hard to say to clients this, well, I'm thinking about this and I'm feeling like this. It's easier for me, for example, to talk to you or you, and hey, I'm wondering and I'm feeling that or that way.
During our discussions, during our treatment meetings, it is the first time when the patient can tell his or her own experiences. That kind of experiences that somebody can say that they are psychotic experiences, and others are listening and hearing it.
I do sometimes meet people just by myself, but I think it's getting thinner. It's giving much less options. It's much smaller audience for these new understandings.
This is the way how we usually work, that we can look each other in the eyes and we turn ourselves a little bit.
In the middle of a therapy session?
Yes.
So in the middle of a therapy session, when you're with a client or with a family,
Yes.
you do this with each other. You're going back and forth and talking to each other?
Yes. Yes. And then we can ask, hey, how do you felt? How does it felt? And what did you listen? How did you heard this, our discussion?
So it's almost like you're doing supervision with each other.
Yes,
in the
yes,
middle,
it is at the
in the
same
middle
time.
of a therapy
Yes,
session.
yes.
That's it. I think that's how we would describe it.
We have much more options when we are more people, and then it's also possibility just to listen while some other people are talking and listen to yourself. So I think it's in many ways it's very useful.
And it's very important that we reflect about things and issues what family bring up to the situation.
Right.
Yes, it's very important.
I consider us more or less as visitors in people's lives. People allow us to visit their lives, but we are not the most meaningful people in this person's life. It's more important that my client will be understood by his family members or those people around him. And so that's how he or she become heard, understood, valued as a person.
But it's a different kind of supervision because you have to do it in a way that's also therapeutic for the family and the client. Isn't that it?
Yes.
So you have to make sure everything you're saying is going through the lens, like this is a lens,
Yes,
the lens
yes,
of being
yes.
therapeutic.
Yeah.
So you have to be more respectful. You know, like in supervision, I think you can say, this is bullshit, that father is so narcissistic, when it's private supervision, you know? But you can never say that
No.
in open dialogue because it's rude.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, indeed. It's very well, I think so. Yeah.
And it also seems like people here like each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, when you say that, I think that's one big thing, that this is a small area, and if we have 100 people working here, working crisscross with each other, so people know also each other quite personally, you know. They can become friends and talk each other about other things also than work, and I think that's makes it easy for us to work in the way we work.
All of us could have psychotic problems. It's an answer to a very difficult life situation. And when I face with a situation which is very stressful for me, so I can start to hear voices, for instance, and what happens in those voices or those experiences that I have, they can include something that previously has happened in my life.
We have to listen. We really have to listen and let them talk what has happened. And we can't know. Maybe some stories are so
crazy.
Maybe crazy. What is the right word?
We have to ask more about hallucination, and we have to ask more and try to understand what has happened. We don't say that you can't speak about hallucinations.
We have no right to say that is impossible because we really don't know.
Yeah. Usually
it's not only that we are talking that we have an open dialogue system, but we dialogue have to really.
I've been prescribing antipsychotic medicine, and usually.
What is the reason for so seldom prescribing it?
Well, I don't actually. I think I prescribe very seldom any medication, so that's one point. That's one point.
In the first meeting, it's very non-understandable. I cannot understand what does it mean. I'm very confused. But later on, step by step, I start to realize that actually she is speaking of something that has happened in her life, and this may be the first time ever it become possible to have some words of those experiences. It's in a way a kind of metaphorical way to speak of things that beforehand did not have any words to speak about it.
Psychotic meaning making is meaning making, and I want to have dialogue around meaning making, and I don't think we should medicate psychotic meaning making.
To not put people in the hospital.
If the whole psychosis or situation goes over without coming to hospital.
So if they're able to work it through without
Yes.
going to the hospital.
Yes, it's much better for the patient and family. They don't have history of mental hospital.
The times that need to be in hospital is because they need shelter or place to be, that it's safe enough to the patient, that he don't or she kill herself or is so psychotic that needs a safe place to be.
Another big reason, if someone hasn't been sleeping, let's say for a week, and they need a place where to kind of feel safe. So we can create those circumstances to their homes as well, if we do the cooperation and work together with the family.
People, psychotic people who come to us, they get some kind of medication. But it's for a short period of time to get over the worst, and then we discuss it all the time. So I think it's more of a minimizing the medication.
And which type of medication are you talking about?
Well, I'm not expert in those, but not so much about, neuroleptics, but more of a, sleeping pills or some anxiolytics.
We used it during the first week, because the situation when they call us, so we will see them in the first 24 hours. And the situation is usually so that person hasn't been sleeping for a week or two.
It's always here that we just consider that how many tablets we give. We don't prescribe a box of tablets, but we think maybe for 1 or 2 days use 2 or 4 tablets.
So that's the most common that they use in a short term, just 4 or 5 days or so, to get sleep and so. But in some cases they can use neuroleptics, but it's also a short term and in small doses.
In the beginning of the treatment, we have to, it's my opinion, have to avoid neuroleptic medication, but
then if it's needed,
usual for us to discuss a lot about medication. Also with the psychiatrists, when they're prescribing medication to some patients, then I would quite often ask, why do you prescribe this? What do you hope would happen? Would there be another?
And you say this right in front of the clients?
Yeah, because I think it's fair.
Yes.
Just fair to say what our prejudices are and
ways to help. There are so useful ways which have, I think, improves the agency of people much more than medication. The idea as an option, as something we could have dialogue around, think about possible advantages, possible disadvantage, possible effects, possible side effects. But if I find a lot of other ways to work there, so I don't even have to bring this option there. And usually when we work, there are so many options that we don't get into this point of thinking about medication.
Either or, it's either medication or not medication, but it's thought to be one part of the treatment if needed.
And if needed. So it's such a complicated thing.
Yeah.
Who decides what's needed, you know?
Jointly, in the joint meeting, it should be decided in the joint meetings.
And do you ever have different staff members with different opinions?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's advisable that if staff members have different opinions, that they could be openly spoken about, so that one staff members could have an idea, perhaps the antipsychotic medication is not needed here, and perhaps the other person have an idea, perhaps the medication would be good, and it's very important to have an open discussion about it. And it happened that 1/3 of the clients used antipsychotic medication, 2/3 did not need.
This is in your program?
Yeah, any antipsychotic medication. At 5 years, and half part of the medication could be discontinued as well.
Half what?
Could be discontinued, stopped.
So of the 1/3 that did take medication, half of those people were able to discontinue their medication.
Yeah.
So now you're down to, at the end of 5 years, 1 out of 6 people is still on medication, and only 1 in 3 ever took it at all. Of the 85% who recovered after 5 years, what percentage of that 85% was on medication, and what percent was off medication?
Actually, I have not looked at that path. Most of them did not use medication.
Most meaning more than 50%?
No, 90%. 90% of the population participates in these open meetings. And now this has been going on for almost 25 years or more than 20 years. So it means a big part of the people in the area has at least sometimes been participated in these open meetings.
have seen people in Kemi, you have noticed it is much of, oh, sorry. Can I ask?
You want me to turn this off?
Yes.